Welcome back to Wingers and Defenders. I'm here with Thomas Partete, aka Jacob Ford, and Christian DeBlock. We're here today to talk about the Premier League's return. Who is serious contenders and who isn't? We're at the second international break. We're here to break down who can seriously contend for a Premier League title this season and who are pretenders. So, how you doing, Jake?
Doing all right. Can't complain.
How you doing, Christian?
Good. I'm coming home tomorrow, so we'll be recording from my end on a different location, but ready to talk to Premier League. Cannot wait for Saturday. We got some big games.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anyway, so now that we're here, let's talk about the reigning champion Liverpool Reds. How do we feel about them with all these injuries? Are they really serious contenders? Christian,
Nick, you want me to go?
Sorry, yeah. Go ahead.
So it's interesting because while I believe there's a lot of issues, especially at the back, we still are in a season where there's no clear champion that we could see at the beginning of the season. I know Joe's the one that says it and has been saying it for weeks. This season, actually months to be quite honest, but this is a season where Spurs could win it. You could see Manchester City win it. You could see Liverpool win it, or somebody different. Maybe a new team like Joe said, or a couple weeks in the season, Aston Villa wouldn't surprise him. While I disagree on that one, it's not impossible for somebody new to win this title. So, in that sense, Liverpool's got a shot. Now, we do need to bring somebody in January to help us defensively because for anybody who hasn't watched international football in the last maybe week and a half, Joe Gomez is now out for what seems to be a majority of the season. He might be back for the Euros, but even if that means good for him, I would hope so, but that means he's probably going to miss the rest of the season for Liverpool. If our offense can score enough goals and you have guys like Diego Jota, Mo Salah, Firmino, and Mane.
Firmino's not scoring goals.
Sorry, well, no matter what, those are your four.
Mane.
Okay. I think that'll do enough. And you have guys like Thiago who have really never played. I mean, I think a lot of people are forgetting that the guy literally has played. And he played in the Everton game that Virgil van Dijk got hurt, and he was a part of the Chelsea game that he played. It was very little. I think he played the second half. So only two appearances. So I hope he can come in and be a really important player because honestly, he's a top-class midfielder, a world-class midfielder, and he can ping the ball pretty much anywhere. So I'm excited for him to come back soon. Fabinho will be back soon. But in terms of them being a title contender, yes, but only because it's a different type of season. If we were talking about almost any other season where there's not as many games in one slot, because really, I think Jurgen Klopp said this. Of course, I would know that. He said October's like December, just November's like December, and then December's also like December. So it feels like a winter period right now. But just because it's a different season, I think they're still a contender, but they're not necessarily the favorite.
Jake?
Yeah, I don't think there's any clear favorites as of far this season. I mean, Leicester's in first place, and they're not a favorite for really anyone. No one had picked them to be at number one at this point in the season. Liverpool, as long as they have Mane, Salah, a solid backline in their midfield, even with Thiago, no Thiago, they're going to be contenders. They're only, I think, they're currently in third place right now.
Third, yeah. 1
point off of first. All it takes is the Leicester result to not go their way, and Liverpool gets a point and they're in first again. I think, obviously, defensively –
Or Spurs.
Yeah, or Spurs as well, who are in second. The defensive problems, obviously, they need to sign Upamecano. I know that's a target for them. They kind of need that considering their two main center backs, Gomez and Van Dijk, came down with pretty freak injuries. One of them in the Everton game with Pickford and the other in England training. And then midfield, Henderson came off injured against England. We don't know on international duty for England. We don't know if he'll actually be able to be fit for the next.
Bravo and Trent are hurt too.
Yeah, we watched Trent get injured in the last match right before international break, and Robertson injured in his Scotland qualifying for Euros. So the team's getting, and also, like we said, Salah getting COVID. Will he be ready for the next match? We don't know. This is a demolished team that needs to make at least, I would say, 2 signings. Definitely center back signing. And you could look at another midfielder, maybe another right back possibly. I don't know. It's not necessary to get another player, I think. But I think 2 is very good for them. I think Jota should be starting. every week. I mean,
he'll probably start against Leicester on Saturday. We're going to need him to bag a goal at least, hopefully.
Yeah, because
Firmino can't do that.
At this point, they're
allergic to goals. Robert Firmino.
I think he's going to start mentioning him in any video we talk about Liverpool at this point.
I think I will because that man is trash.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to really. I don't have to.
That's enough.
I don't have to really explain why I feel about Roberto Firmino because if people don't know, I don't think he's very good. I think he's good at what he does, but only that, and that's not enough.
Oh no, I don't disagree with you.
And it works in the system, but anywhere else it doesn't work.
Defensive striker, you know.
But anyways, I think with their defensive lineup,
what the hell is a defensive striker? How are you gonna be a striker?
I'm having this conversation.
Joe, it's worked.
I don't know what you want me to say.
Doesn't exist. Defensive strikers don't exist.
Premier League champion and European champion, but doesn't work.
I wouldn't even consider him a defensive striker. He doesn't do defensive. He just drops back further and holds up play. Doesn't make him defensive.
It's a hold-up striker. If you want to call him a hold-up striker, that's fine. He's decent at that.
You're the one that called him defensive.
Because Liverpool fans call him defensive.
That's a better title.
Do you see me call him that? No.
I don't know. He can't speak for all Liverpool fans.
He can.
I don't think defensive.
Personally, I don't feel he's a defensive striker. I feel he's a guy that drops back deep and links players in. Has it been effective? Yes. Has his season last season?
Yes.
Last season and this season have been very bad from him. Can he still get back to the level he had the prior year? Where? What are you saying?
Just like Delhi, the best years are gone.
Fine. But it doesn't matter because
Brazil is in trouble if they're really going to start Roberto Firmino at starting striker.
Give me another option.
I don't know. They just need someone else better.
Would you rather start Gabriel Jesus?
Yeah, I think I would actually.
As a number 9, yeah.
It's funny because Firmino's actually scoring for Brazil, but he can't score for Liverpool, so don't know why. But
Juju. Speaking of which, Liverpool, in my opinion, I think they probably have the best chance to win the Premier League this season. If you look at them, I think they have the best team overall. They're going to get healthy at some point. I mean, the thing is, did they use up all of their juju last season? I mean,
hopefully.
I mean, if you think about it, this is terrible luck. Basically, they're starting Mane and Alisson this Sunday. Or Sunday or Saturday they're playing?
They play Saturday at 10 o'clock our time. But
okay, so Saturday they're playing Leicester.
Leicester
right?
City. It's going to be a tough game, especially defensively.
Beautiful win if you guys could get that. I would greatly.
Oh, huge! No, and Fabinho's going to be back for the Brighton game the following weekend. So if our defense can hold up and shut down Vardy to maybe a goal, and then hope our scoring.
Is Thiago playing?
That's a good question. I don't know, but I know Fabinho will not be available this weekend.
So I would go Liverpool. I think is best title contender because we talked about in another video, a few videos back. Make sure you guys go check that out. I think it was about Manchester United and Ole. I believe it was that video. Could be wrong. We'll put the link in the description. But there's not that many good center backs in the world right now, especially in Europe. There's just not that many elite center backs and center back pairing. So scoring is going to be up. Liverpool have the best offense in the league, in my opinion, and I think second is Spurs. But Liverpool's offense can really outscore any team and keep up with anyone. I think a great example of this was when they played Leeds first game of the season. Obviously, it was first game of the season, but Leeds played very well that game. They had a great attack. Just so happened that Liverpool's attack was much, much better, and I think you're going to see that the whole season. I think that's why they might come away back-to-back titles. Moving on, however, another team that's very interesting to me right now is Chelsea. And this is because Mendy at goal. Mendy, in my opinion, has been a top 5 keeper this year, no doubt. Maybe top 3 since coming in. He's shored up the back line, and if they can get production out of Werner, which I'm a little bit suspect of, I'm not totally convinced on him. They're definitely a title contender. Let's be fair here.
I'll go for it's interesting because we have been so we really bring up a lot of criticism for Frank Lampard, and rightfully so. I mean, last season there was definitely some interesting games and interesting performances that he could have, and also team selection. There's been, I can remember a lot of different times where Joe was very critical of his decision making, and I agree. I think he's not at this top tier level as the other managers in the league, but he still has time. It's his second season. He had one season at Derby County the prior year, so I think there is some time for him. But yeah, it's an interesting roster because I remember we talked about in the summer, their squad is so consistent of all attackers and all attackers. But Thiago Silva has obviously shored up their defensive line because that's been shambolic. And then other than that, Mendy's been – I agree with you. I think he's been a top 5 keeper. He's came in, shored the back line. There's now confidence that if somebody gets in behind, he can make a save when they need him to make one. Versus Kepa, who you were just waiting for that one mistake in every single match, and basically that would cause them to either get a draw or lose, which was why they were kind of really low on the table at the beginning of the season. But yes, like I said, mentioned before about Liverpool, they have enough offense to do similar things to Liverpool. They can outscore teams. Now, Pulisic is a key man for them. He's out right now. Hopefully he can come back both for all three of us as U.S. supporters, but just as somebody who enjoys watching him play, hopefully he can come back and do well for them because he's better than Werner in my opinion. I know Joe agrees. I'm sure Jake feels the same way. Can Havertz kind of get going? He's had a really rough start to the season, really can't find the goal-scoring sheet. I think he scored a couple goals in a FA Cup game, but other than that, he has really done none. Ziyech is another guy to watch out for. That dude can just cut in on his left and just ping balls in. He is a magician with the ball. I didn't expect this, but they have a lot of attacking talent, and that's probably why I would also consider them a title contender. The only difference between them and Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp is proven, and Frank Lampard isn't. So that's why I probably would be a little bit more hesitant, but they're still a contender, just like I mentioned before.
Yeah, there's, like I've said in the past, there's just too much talent for them to fail miserably. I think they've invested too much money in their squad for them to kind of finish 5th or 6th. I think I predicted them to finish 3rd or 4th. I think 3rd. This year they can finish 2nd, possibly 1st, because how poorly City have started off, how bad United are, and, you know, the uncertainty at the top. The top 5, 6 is constantly switching. If teams drop points, a new team gets in the top 4, and vice versa. Chelsea has so much attacking options, as you said, Christian and Joe. There's just too much for them going forward. And all that happening with Werner and Ziyech on the right, Mount playing well when he's playing in his natural at number 8 or a 10 kind of, not playing on a wing. He's playing centrally when he's at his best. And even Tammy Abraham coming off the bench and scoring goals for them as well. He's still not someone you should forget about. Defensively, again, they have Chilwell there. Reece James looks very good. Their fullbacks are great. Thiago Silva is probably their second most, I would say, impactful signing behind Mendy, because Mendy was the main sign they needed to make. They wanted to win games. I think Thiago Silva on a free is also impactful because it costs no money, and he's a veteran that's going to help them for at least the other year or two and coach the younger guys like Tomori, shore up that defensive line. They're too big to fail. I said in the past, 3rd place minimum. They shouldn't finish any lower than 3rd. With the amount of money they spent, probably over 250 mil this summer, there's just too much. And I think Werner will come good with the goals. I know he started off a little slow, but I think he had a brace earlier this year. Maybe he might have had 2 braces this year. Missed out on a hat trick, I think, because of VAR, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be the key for them as far as a goal scorer. Ziyech is going to be able to supply him. He's, like we said, he's just fantastic. When they signed him, I didn't think it was a necessary signing, but it was one that they could have made and did make, and it was just made them that much better. The only person missing from this whole mix is Havertz, who's been fit but hasn't really gotten himself going. If he gets going too, that whole like front attackers and attacking midfielders, that whole area is going to be cluttered with people, and that first team is going to be hard to get into. So if Havertz can step up his game, this team is really scary going forward. I'm worried to play them as an Arsenal supporter because defensively they're good, and attacking-wise they can break down teams and score 4-5 if they really want to. So I'm looking forward to seeing them play, but I obviously don't really want them to do too well as an Arsenal supporter, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I think they have, like I said earlier, I think they are really improving as a team. I think Ziyech is a stud. I think he might be their best player. He genuinely might be the best player on that team.
I think you can argue that, definitely.
I think he's going to be similar to what a Christian Eriksen was for Tottenham in their prime, and a little bit like a Kevin De Bruyne. And I think that type of player who's going to really control things and really do a great job of unlocking that offense. Speaking of Kevin De Bruyne, another team that very, very good, City. They're a little bit – Manchester City is down on the table right now, but when they get healthy – they've had the most injuries this year. Liverpool's been talked about more for injuries, but technically City's had the most injuries this season to first-team players. So, with all that being said, when they get healthy, they're going to be a scary team. I'm still on the Pep is a fraud train, but that man knows how to win Premier League games. So
Yeah, no, you're right. I know we've said this, and I've said this probably 5 or 6 times since we got off, since we got on the call prior to this. But I would like to apologize for talking about Ferran Torres as a rotation piece. This guy came in for both Spain and Manchester City and just scoring goals for galore. I mean, today they beat Germany 6-0, and while it's a transitioning Germany team, scoring 3 goals in an international game, that means something because I think it's UEFA Nations Cup. Or the Nations League.
It was the Nations Cup. It was the Nations Cup.
So it's important. So that's incredible from him. But yes, you mentioned the injuries, and it's crazy because honestly, as a Liverpool supporter, I don't even think of them as a team that's been having issues. Aguero started the year off because that's the only guy I really think of. But yeah, this team, like we just mentioned for the previous 2, it's in a weird season, so they're going to be in it. And I think they have 1 game in hand, so they can get up and rise from 12 points to 15, which would already get them near 5th. So they'll be right there with it. Can they still do it? Yes, because they signed Laporte, who's a little bit overrated. I know we've said that in the past, but
he's overrated. But he's still a top 5
because
the Prem, which is
incorrect,
crazy.
And that's why you mentioned it, because we've said this on previous occasions, and you've mentioned it first. There is a lack of center back talent across the world. It's not even the Premier League. It's not the Bundesliga. It's not even any certain league. It's across the board, and we kind of see that in every single league. So with that, you have him, Ruben Diaz. I'm not sold on the left back position, which right now they're playing, I think, Ake, who's now hurt. They could also offer Mendy and Zinchenko. So there's a couple options. But when you have Kevin De Bruyne, who's the best player, certainly last season, I don't think he'll win it again this year because there's a lot of guys, especially guys like Heung-min Son, even Harry Kane, which I know Joe loves those 2 guys, of course. So he won't necessarily win Player of the Year, but he's still an elite world-class, really midfielder, and he could honestly do so many different things for them. So, yes, this team is still a contender. They do need Aguero back, though. That is the key because for the first 7 games of the season, they've been offering Jesus, Sterling. I think Foden's also played as the number 9, and it hasn't really been effective, which is why they dropped points against Liverpool, and they got killed by Leicester City. I believe it was 5-2 at home. So that's embarrassing. So if they can get Aguero back, he can get goals going. I think that team's right there. But Aguero is the major key, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's the only thing missing. They miss goals, and defensively, obviously, there's problems there. But, I mean, there's only so much you can fix with that. I think when you get Aguero back, you get that goal-scoring presence back, and who's arguably one of the best strikers the Premier League has ever seen with Aguero. Once he gets back fit and can play a string of games, we'll see the City team come back to form. They're flying under the radar because they started off so poorly. I think they're going to eventually climb back up, finish 3rd or 4th. Not finish 3rd or 4th, but they'll be in 3rd or 4th for majority of the season. After they probably pick up a win in the next week or so with a game at hand, they'll climb up to, I think, 5th possibly. Then after that, they'll probably get to – they'll hover around there. I can see them moving up. They're with Pep, Aguero, and KDB in your team, and Foden really helping out, and obviously Raheem Sterling on the left. There's just too much quality, like I've said. They've proven it every year that they're going to continuously just be a top-tier team. Now, in Europe, it's a different story. But in the Prem, they like to dominate a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish 2nd or 3rd this year. If they finish below 3rd or 4th, I'd be very surprised. But I think they're going to really make a push as the season wears on. And December is big, a lot of fixtures. This will be the time where they pick up a lot of points, and we'll see where they end up in January.
Yeah, easily. I mean, this team is built for the Premier League, and because of that, if you think that they're done, if you think they're a finished team, you don't know ball because this City team can turn it on like this. Like that team is insane. And look, I've said it multiple times. I don't think they're going to be competing this season. I think they will compete, but I don't think they're going to win it this season. I think the team is getting a little tired of Pep's strategy in a way. I think it's kind of turned to that point where it's like they've been with this coach for so long. I mean, not everyone's going to be Sir Alex Ferguson and have a 20-year run, or Arsene Wenger is going to have a 20-year run with the team. And even towards the end of his run at Arsenal, his tactics got stale. I think you could possibly – I said earlier over the summer, I said you could possibly see that this season with Pep. But again, you can't count them out. You can't. City is probably one of the maybe the strongest team in the league right now, personnel-wise. We'll see what happens. Moving on, the team they play Saturday, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, my club here. Are they serious title contenders? I feel like you have to say yes. I mean, are they going to win the league? I don't know. But, I mean, when you have an attack of Harry Kane, who, in my opinion, is the best player in the world right now, and Son, who is one of the best players, he was just a world-class winner, and you got a good midfield in Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Tanguy Ndombele, and either Sissoko or Gio, whoever they decide to go there. It's been a quality midfield. And then you've got a great goalkeeper who I think is top 3 right now in Hugo Lloris. So I think they have all the pieces that's necessary. They just got to get their bottling DNA out. If they can get that out of the DNA with Jose Mourinho, coach, who's been – I was talking to Christian the other day. He said it. He's been proving you two wrong. You guys say he was a finished manager. He's doing well right now. He's doing well as coach. And there's definitely stuff to look up for. There's finally now depth in the team, which is good. There's replacements. I mean, obviously, if you lose Harry Kane or Son, that's a problem. But it's not going to be like you have to put Lucas Moura as striker that you saw last year in the UCL. The Spurs have depth. They definitely have a chance to do it. It just depends on if their defense can hold off. And like we said, their defense is suspect, but every defense is suspect in the league right now. So we'll see.
Jake, I'll let you go first since you seem to be disagreeing with him.
Arsenal supporter, by the way. Yeah, they got to worry about finishing top 10.
I'd be wrong to say Spurs are not performing well. I'd be wrong to say Harry Kane and Heung-min Son are not being probably the best performers in the league currently and probably in Europe. I'd be wrong to say that. I'd be wrong to say that Tottenham Hotspur are not second place in the Premier League. But what? Are they going to do what they do every year? Put pressure on just earlier on this season? Usually they kind of hang around 4th, 5th, and then end of the season they end up 3rd or 4th, and everyone's like, oh, wow, great job, great season. I think they're doing it earlier this year. I think Kane and Son is very good, and then you have Højbjerg and Lloris, and it's very good. And then after that, I don't know. I'm not convinced on Tanguy Ndombele, even though Joe rates him very, very highly. I haven't seen him. I mean, I've seen him play well, but for a whole season, I haven't seen it yet. Other than that, I don't know what else the team offers going forward. Reguilon is pretty decent, I'll admit that. They're building a very solid team. But I think that Spurs in general, maybe because Arsenal bias, I'm not convinced by them. I'm just not. I'm convinced with Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, and Højbjerg, and Lloris to an extent. But the rest of the team, I'm not surprised. I think it's going to be a season where they finish 4th or 5th, possibly. They're going to drop off. I don't think Kane and Son keep this momentum all season. I don't think it's too far off to believe that. I think they're a very good team that's going to finish 4th or 5th, but they're not going to keep this up all year. They won't be able to.
Yeah, you know what? I certainly agree with a lot of the points you make. The only reason why I'm still hesitant to say they aren't one is because I haven't seen enough that would make me judge them in that sense. This weekend's going to be important. Then the following weekend, they go to Stamford Bridge. That's going to be another test. I think this next period of games where they have to go all the way through December and January is going to really tell us where this team is. Right now, it looks like they're its contenders strictly because Heung-min Son and Harry Kane are at a world-class level. There are some issues. We did see them have a shocking, really 10 minutes against West Ham, which those are the type of points where we could see this team drop off. I think as a contender, you can't see those teams. But then again, I think you played West Brom a couple weeks ago, and you snuck a 1-goal win out of them. So you can see
and Burnley, we did that against Burnley as well.
So, right, that's the difference because I think a team that's going to win a title needs to get those points. I know from personally watching Liverpool, there were a lot of games last season in our Christmas period where we didn't really deserve to win, but because we have elite talent, we would get wins. And also there's some help with VAR. You need luck. We all know that. You need luck to be on your side as well in certain senses. So right now, I think if Heung-min Son and Harry Kane can – it doesn't even have to be at this level because it's honestly an incredible level.
He had 14 comps for Harry Kane overall, completely his last 14 games.
It's incredible.
27 goal contributions. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
I think it's unrealistic to say they can stay at this level the whole season. But even if they can keep it a little bit lower, I think you can't take them out of the situation because, honestly, those two guys alone can really carry an offense enough to the point where this team could at least challenge, certainly. Jake, I think you're right in that they could drop off just because I don't personally trust guys like Eric Dyer, Davinson Sanchez, or Alderweireld as well. But like we mentioned before, or Joe said before, Lloris has been on a pretty good level. So even if you have a poor defense, sometimes the goalie is going to be able to bail you out. And if they're playing the bad teams in the Premier League, the likes of West Brom, Fulham, even if they give up a poor goal, maybe they still end up winning the game. But I think the key for this team is to nudge out those 1-0 wins, those 2-1 wins where they get a goal from Harry Kane in the 90th minute. Because honestly, when I've watched in the past couple seasons, when you have a team who can pick up those points at the end of the game when you really don't deserve to win, that's what makes a champion. And right now we're seeing a little bit of both. So I would keep them as a contender right now, but this period is going to be the test.
And you know what? On top of that, one last point about Spurs. I think they match up really well with some of the top bigger teams. I think teams I think we saw it perfectly when they played Southampton. City and Liverpool are not going to play a low block against Tottenham. They're going to go and try to score. They're going to play a high line. And
Southampton top 4.
What?
Southampton
yeah, I know, right?
Top 4.
Crazy. But when teams are going to play a high line against Spurs, I think that's a disaster for them. United played that against Spurs as well, and they put 6 past them. They put 5 past Southampton. I just think playing a high line against Spurs actually plays into their strength. So I think that really it's going to be more important about taking points away from these smaller teams that play those low blocks than it is necessarily the bigger teams. Because I really do think Spurs have a very good shot at taking all 3 points away from City, Liverpool, and other teams. So let's go. Who is each of our pretenders this season and why? I'll start off. My pretender this season, Leicester City. I don't think they're that good of a team. I think they start off strong. We saw it last year. They fell off in December and January. There was are they going to compete with Liverpool for the title? I don't buy it. I don't think Brendan Rodgers is that good of a manager. I'm sorry. I just don't. I think they'll finish maybe top 4, but I wouldn't be surprised if they fall out of the top 4 again. They had a historic collapse last season. They're starting off strong again. I think this is just a repeat of last year.
Yeah, so I'll take a different route, but to just address that point, the issue I have with Leicester is the lack of depth. If Jamie Vardy gets hurt, who are you relying on? Iheanacho, which he's interesting, talented, but he's inconsistent. So that's the issue I have with him. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Czech Under from AS Roma, who's on loan, has gotten off to a flyer, scored or assisted 2 goals to Vardy already in 2 separate games to, I think, win both matches. So he's an interesting signing. But for Leicester, I don't see it either. I think top 6 would probably be where I have them just because of the inconsistencies of some of the other teams like United. But me, I would go with Everton. So I know we mentioned it a lot at the beginning of the season. They were on a flyer. They were first going into the Everton Liverpool Merseyside derby, and they've tailed off completely right now. I think they're in 7th right now, 5 points off the top. I think if James Rodriguez gets hurt, that really hurts their lack of creativity. He's playing a little bit out of position because they have to play him on the right side when he really should be playing centrally. But I think it's an interesting team still because they could still probably finish top 4. I just don't love the lack of depth, especially because Jordan Pickford's been terrible. I know we ripped to shreds for Kepa, but Pickford's a howler in himself as well. So their lack of defense of talent, honestly, is pretty bad as well. I mean, if Coleman gets hurt, Digne gets hurt, things change a lot. They have Michael Keane and Mason Holgate and also Yerry Mina back, which isn't particularly great either. But, I mean, Calvert-Lewin, I mean, we all probably agree Calvert-Lewin's been probably a top 10 player certainly in the Premier League to start the season. I mean, pretty much anything he gets in front of him, he puts away. His head, his left foot, his right foot. Richarlison needs to stay healthy because, I mean, we saw him get a red card, and they're also lack of goal-scoring ability besides Calvert-Lewin has kind of dropped off since he got a suspension. But, yeah, no, I think those 2 teams, I'll be interested to see where Jake takes this route. But Everton, for me, is just a team that's not going to be in the title contention. Still can finish top 6 like Leicester, though.
I agree with both of you. Leicester doesn't seem like that team that's going to be able to stay afloat for very long, to get the top for very long. And Everton shows signs of weakness. They were in 1st for a minute. Now they're in 7th. This could be a place where they stand for a bit. I like James, but not sure how long they're going to be able to stay in that top 4 race. And I'm going to go back to it, like I said, because I was going to say Leicester initially, but I want to go a different route. And it's going to sound like hatred, sound like bias. Tottenham Hotspur. I think they're pretenders. I think they're going to give everyone a run for their money for a very long time. Not for a very long time. December, as you guys have pointed out, are big results, big fixtures. Sorry for them. They need to win. Need to prove that they can play with the big boys and put pressure on in a real way. But until they prove me wrong and win a trophy, I'm not convinced by them. I really, really like Kane, really, really like Son, like Højbjerg a lot, like Lurie, and like Reguilon. But other than that, I'm not a big fan of the rest of their team. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop points in December, and from there, their fixtures may pile up as far as Europa League is concerned. I want to see how they perform in that. I don't see them coming out of the season with a trophy. I've said that to Joe in the past. He disagrees with me heavily. He thinks they're going to win Europa League, possibly, maybe FA Cup. They can prove me wrong for sure. They have the team that may be able to do that, but I can't see them winning anything again this year. It's the same old, same old. It's the baller DNA.
Well, we'll see what happens, man. I hope you're wrong. But that's it for this episode of Wingers and Defenders. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow our Instagram, Wingers and Defenders on Instagram. Follow our Twitter as well. We'll put those 2 links in the bio. We'll see you soon, guys.